Chapter 2071, Eating Fruits, Devouring Heavens. 2071 Eating Fruits, Devouring Heavens, no doubt. This is a very rewarding victory. Eastern Sea's righteous path is no big deal. I wonder if Chi's Sea ancestor died in battle? If he is dead, the whole of Eastern Sea will be ours. The variant Human Alliance Gu Immortals were extremely excited. Fang Yuan detained the captives while commanding the variant Human Gu Immortals to clean up the battlefield. Lord Fang Yuan, I am willing to follow you and offer my golden fur grotto heaven. Golden Fur Immortal Monarch suddenly knelt before Fang Yuan and proclaimed loudly. The immortals were silent for a while before cries of pledging allegiance came from everyone. The entire variant Human Alliance submitted to him without exception. Wu Shuai was inwardly happy upon seeing this, while Fang Yuan was still indifferent. This scene was within the expectations of these two. If Fang Yuan forced these alliance members earlier, he naturally could suppress them even then, but it would not be like now when these people were willingly following him. This arrangement that Fang Yuan and his two clones planned gave them a lot of gains. Point 1 was the huge external pressure brought by the Eastern Sea Alliance Army's attack. The members of the variant Human Alliance was forced to unite. They observed the dangerous external environment and the deep malice held towards the variant humans by the entire Human Gu immortal world. The other was that Fang Yuan displayed his peak-level battle strength, leading the variant Human Alliance to a massive victory. This gave a deep impression to the variant Human Alliance immortals that they could not oppose Fang Yuan, and also made them feel some sort of anticipation towards their future after submitting to Fang Yuan. From the perspective of these variant human immortals, 1. All their grotto heavens were facing the Qi harvest fruit disaster. If they did not surrender to Fang Yuan, they would not be able to deal with it by themselves. Point 2. The outcome of going against Fang Yuan was displayed in front of them. They could not do this if they wanted to live. Point 3. Although Fang Yuan was ruthless, he was strong. Following such an expert would give them a much brighter future than fighting alone. Humanity had dominated the 5 regions for a long time. These variant Human Gu immortals of the 2 heavens swallowed their anger and bore with it, and were already habituated to their lowered statuses. They lacked the spirit and state of mind that were possessed by the members of Heavenly Court and Longevity Heaven. This was already shown in many of the past battles. The variant Human Alliance's Gu immortals had low fighting spirit and prioritized their own safety. All these reasons made it almost certain that everyone in the variant Human Alliance would surrender to Fang Yuan. After cleaning up the battlefield, Fang Yuan was not in a hurry to count his gains. He sent a command. We will invade Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven and Night Wolf Grotto Heaven. The immortals were shaken, once again feeling Fang Yuan's forcefulness and tyrannical character. Even this large battle could not satisfy Fang Yuan's appetite. He still wanted to continue fighting and take down Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven and Night Wolf Grotto Heaven. Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven was a soul path grotto heaven secretly controlled by Spectral Soul when he was alive. Now that Spectral Soul was dead, Fang Yuan was going to exploit the weakness and wipe them out. As for Night Wolf Grotto Heaven, its previous owner, Night Heavenly Wolf Lord, had surrendered to Heavenly Court, which was known by Fang Yuan and used to his advantage. Wu Shuai had killed Night Heavenly Wolf Lord in Dragon Palace, but to conceal the information, they had immediately invaded Heavenly Court and could not care about Night Wolf Grotto Heaven at that time. Now that Fang Yuan was free, he was going to take revenge and annex them. Thereupon, the variant Human Alliance charged towards immemorial Black Heaven majestically. The army drew closer, but before the battle even started, Night Wolf Grotto Heaven opened its entrance. With Yiji leading them, the Grotto Heaven Gu immortals moved out of their home and bowed to Fang Yuan, asking him to accept their surrender. Fang Yuan did not start a slaughter. He took in all of them, then led the army towards Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven. However, Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven was a scene of desolation. After Spectral Soul had possessed Lady Cold Ash's body, he had placed Insun behind in Soul Pacifying Grotto Heaven to take care of the logistics. After the pursuit battle against Fang Yuan, only Fairy Ziwei and Ing Wuxia escaped among the Shadow Sect members. After Fairy Ziwei escaped, she immediately contacted Insun and ordered him to flee. Sun fled, but naturally not with empty hands. Besides emptying out almost all the storage, He even detonated the Qi harvest fruit before leaving, causing soul-pacifying Grotto Heaven to suffer severe damage. The remaining Gu immortals of soul-pacifying Grotto Heaven had just patched up the holes and not even rested for a few days when they were faced with Fang Yuan's army. Against Fang Yuan's army, soul-pacifying Grotto Heaven did not have any strength to fight back and was conquered almost instantly. The remaining Gu immortals of soul-pacifying Grotto Heaven were led by Enchong. These people's souls were not tampered by Spectral Soul, and they had fought in Sun before he left. They were all injured to some degree. Fang Yuan did not reject anyone and took them in as well. Now, it was time to create a new agreement. Fang Yuan learned from his previous lesson. He did not establish a connection with other subordinates and let his clone Wu Shui take his place. This way, even if a powerful enemy captured these subordinates in the future, they could only deduce Wu Shui's position through the clue from the agreement. Fang Yuan's main body would be secure. Now, Fang Yuan had completely taken over the variant human alliance, but this was not enough. The Qi harvest fruits in many Two Heavens Grotto Heavens had already become extremely large and were at the point of self-detonating. Fang Yuan first went to Grand Swine Grotto Heaven. Under all the immortals' gazes, Fang Yuan raised his hand and released white light. The white light lingered around the huge Qi harvest fruit and turned into vast fog. The fog blocked investigative methods. Fang Yuan was still not assured. He ordered the immortals, "Get back. Don't use any goo worms or you might disturb my method." The immortals obeyed. White fog spread and shrouded Fang Yuan's main body. Outsiders were unable to tell what was going on inside. Fang Yuan opened his sovereign immortal aperture, from which the Qi Si clone flew out. The Qi Si clone went up to the Qi harvest fruit. His eyes glowed like he had seen the most exquisite delicacy. The Qi Si clone stabbed his hand deep into the Qi harvest fruit and used his Qi path method. Immortal killer move, Qi Ju revival. Fang Yuan had learned demon immortal Qi Ju's Qi harvest fruit revival method and modified it to create this method. He had used this move to create the Qi Si clone previously. Under the killer move Qi Ju revival, the Qi harvest fruit started to shrink, turning into large amounts of Qi path Dao marks that were directly added to the Qi Si clone's body. After devouring this fruit, I will gain about 60,000 Qi path Dao marks. Qi Si ancestor estimated with a joyous tone. This amount was very impressive. On average, an ordinary Grand Tribulation gave about 7,000 Dao marks, while an ordinary Myriad Tribulation gave about 80,000. If it were just Grand Tribulations, a Qi Path Gu Immortal needed to undergo 8 or 9 Grand Tribulations approximately to accumulate 60,000 Qi Path Dao marks. The new Dao marks from the Grand Tribulation included Dao marks of the Gu Immortal's main path, as well as some Dao marks of other paths. From another perspective, as long as Qi Si ancestor absorbed this Qi harvest fruit, it was like passing half a Qi Path Myriad Tribulation without any risk. So, Qi Si ancestor could make enormous gains by absorbing the Qi harvest fruits. Fang Yuan inwardly estimated. The Qi Si clone was made from heavenly quartz Qi harvest fruit. He possessed over 800,000 Qi path Dao marks the moment he was born. After absorbing 3 Qi harvest fruits like this one, the amount will cross 1 million. My own Qi path Dao marks is also at this level. When the Qi Si clone absorbs all the Qi harvest fruits in the Two Heavens Grotto Heavens, his Qi path Dao marks will surpass mine and accumulate to an unprecedented level. Fang Yuan's 1 million Qi path Dao marks were obtained from annexing Qi Si Grotto Heaven. The Qi Si clone was starting anew and accumulating by himself. But by relying on the killer move Qi Ju revival and the Qi harvest fruits, his accumulation speed became truly terrifying. Clearly, for a long time from now on, the Qi Si clone would become Fang Yuan's #1 clone. Based on just battle strength, he would not be lower than the main body, and might even be stronger. There were many factors that influenced a Gu Immortal's battle strength. For instance, the Gu Immortal's individual battle attainment, the battle environment, the level of the Gu Immortal's Gu worms, killer moves, Gu formations, immortal Gu houses, and whether the Gu Immortal had an excellent combat system or not. But the top of these factors would always be the Gu Immortal's cultivation level. 1,000 Dao marks could grant 100% amplification. Besides freaks and monsters like Fang Yuan, Feng Jiugu, and the past venerables, on average, rank 6 Gu immortals had 0 to 9,000 Dao marks. Rank 7 Gu immortals had 10,000 to 30,000. Rank 8s had 100,000 to 300,000 ISO. The gap between the battle strength of rank 7 and rank 8 far surpassed the gap between rank 6 and rank 7. The gap between the latter stages of Gu cultivation would become increasingly bigger, until they reached rank 9 Gu venerable level where an individual could become invincible in the world, dominating everyone and everything. Why was Northern Plains' old ancestor Shui, who was the #1 rank 8 in Northern Plains' Gu immortal world? He was from the demonic path and lacked suitable immortal Gu. The main reason was his ice and snow path Dao marks far surpassed ordinary numbers. According to your estimation, how many Dao marks does demon immortal Qi Ju have? Inside the endless white fog, Fang Yuan asked the Qi Si clone. Qi Si clone absorbed the Qi harvest fruit while replying, maybe over 500,000. Fang Yuan nodded in agreement. From the various traces in battles, demon immortal Qi Ju's Dao marks were slightly lower than Duke Long's. It was very likely because of Fang Yuan and the Southern Alliance disturbing the revival process and causing demon immortal Qi Ju to hasten it. But demon immortal Qi Ju had Shiland. Shiland was a secluded domain of heaven and earth. A complete secluded domain of heaven and earth was a rank 9 level immortal material. So, as long as the Qi Path Killer moves use Shiland as the core, they would gain terrifying strength. Even Spectral Soul could not face them easily. This was similar to how Fang Yuan had once used Reverse Flow Protection Seal to leave a group of enemies without options. Demon Immortal Qi Ju's killer moves were outdated, and he lacked Immortal Gu. The two pillars that allowed him to have pseudo-venerable battle strength were Dao Marks and Shiland. After Shiland was damaged, his battle strength fell sharply, and he was finally imprisoned by Divine Emperor City. The Qi Si clone fully absorbed the Qi Harvest Fruit and returned to the sovereign immortal aperture. Fang Yuan withdrew the endless fog. The alliance members rejoiced when they saw the Qi Harvest Fruit was completely gone. We are saved. Our homes are saved. As expected of Lord Fang Yuan, he is truly unfathomable and all-powerful. Lord Fang Yuan, my home is in imminent danger. Please save it first. All kinds of flatteries were thrown at Fang Yuan. Although not even a few of these Gu immortals were good at fighting, their boot-licking skills were deep and improving day by day. Fang Yuan then smoothly annexed this Grand Swine Grotto Heaven and merged it into Sovereign Grotto Heaven. Grand Swine Grotto Heaven was a rank 8 transformation path Grotto Heaven. It produced boar-type desolate beasts, ancient desolate beasts, and even immemorial desolate beasts. Fang Yuan's transformation path attainment level was at Great Grandmaster. He naturally could annex it. Why did he not annex it before? It was naturally because this Grand Swine Grotto Heaven had fused with a 9 Heavens fragment and had taken in Heaven Path Dao marks, which invaded the heavenly spirit and caused it to become powerless and dull. Fang Yuan could now refine Heaven Path Dao marks, expanding the food option of Sovereign Immortal Fetus Gu. From now, all Grotto Heavens could be annexed by Fang Yuan, even if they had fused with a 9 Heavens fragment, as long as the corresponding attainment level was sufficient. Chapter 2072, Easily Creating Killer Moves. 2072 Easily Creating Killer Moves. Fang Yuan began to create compound killer moves once again. His divine sense was inside the sovereign immortal aperture. Observing all sorts of mortal Gu, he casually took out 2 Wind Path Gu worms from them. Rank 1 Clear Wind Will Gu and Rank 2 Jade Wind Will Gu. When the former was activated, it would create a light green cyclone below each of the Gu Master's feet and increase their movement speed. The latter was one of the possible advancements of Clear Wind Will Gu. It could form a pair of jade green cyclones which circulated around the Gu Master's arms like armbands and could increase the Gu Master's punching speed. I currently lack movement abilities in a large fight. Why not use this as a base to create one? Fang Yuan had an inspiration and fell into contemplation. Ever since he fought the Qi Si clone in Immemorial 2 Heavens, he had been thinking of this aspect. Although it was a show to trick Eastern Sea's Righteous Path and the Variant Human Alliance, Fang Yuan had truly fought with the Qi Si clone. If it were not real, how could there have been such terrifying phenomena? That fight had even cracked the sky and caused the powder of the heavens to scatter down. In this friendly spar, Fang Yuan had used all kinds of killer moves. Most of them put up an excellent performance. Even the worst ones were at ordinary level. At least their performance was up to par. There was neither surprise nor disappointment. This spar made Fang Yuan understand his deficiency. Although he had already created many compound killer moves, they were mostly offensive or defensive methods. He lacked movement killer moves. The two wind path goo worms gave Fang Yuan an inspiration.I in his conceptualization. When he activated the wind path goo worm, two cyclones would condense below his 2 feet, and they would continuously rotate like 2 wheels. As long as some time passes, the wheels would rotate increasingly faster and thus increase Fang Yuan's speed continuously. Let me see how many wind path immortal goo I have. Fang Yuan had very few wind path immortal goo on him, but the large battle earlier provided him many wind path immortal goo. The variant human alliance members also had some. If it was still not enough, Fang Yuan could also extort the whole of Eastern Sea's righteous path and demand wind path immortal goo. Fang Yuan had too many options. Soon, Fang Yuan obtained several wind path immortal goo from his subordinates, and they were all of rank 7 level. After pondering over it and trying out many wind path immortal goo as well as referencing wind path killer moves, the initial form of Fang Yuan's wind path killer move was created. After the first activation, 2 cyclone wheels formed under both feet, which could move the goo immortal's body. Fang Yuan frowned slightly after testing the killer move. He felt its greatest flaw. Although this killer move would become increasingly faster, its initial speed was too slow and it would need some time for it to show even a slight improvement. How to improve it? This was actually a common issue with wind path killer moves. Be they a gentle wind or fierce gale, they both needed some time to reach their strongest state. But there were naturally many methods to push their strength to the maximum at the very start. If one's wind path attainment level was high enough, the killer moves could be modified to be extremely exquisite. They could also sacrifice a lot of time to prepare the killer move in advance and let it erupt at once. It was also possible to expend much more immortal essence to increase the strength. However, Fang Yuan threw these methods to the back of his mind, because those were all ordinary solutions. Fang Yuan targeted Fire Path instead. Fire Path's explosive strength was far beyond Wind Path. Based on just burst potential, Fire Path was at the top 1 or 2 among all paths. After choosing several suitable Fire Path immortal goo, this compound killer moves modification was completed. Let's name it Firewind Wheel. Fang Yuan casually chose a name. The killer move Firewind Wheel had burst speed and could also become increasingly faster. The crucial points were that it consumed little immortal essence and also did not need much mental control. Fang Yuan tried it once again and was rather satisfied with it. Firewind Wheel was a rank 7 killer move, but was at an extraordinary level that trampled upon at least 70% of all existing killer moves. However, it would be a different situation if this killer move were in the hands of other goo immortals. Almost no goo immortal with a clear mind would use it. Based on just the internal friction between Wind Path and Fire Path, this killer move's practical results were lowered to rank 6 level, expending immortal essence for a rank 7 killer move, but getting rank 6 effect. This killer move would be lower than low grade in other goo immortals' evaluation. This was the advantage of over 3,000 Heaven Path Dao marks. It greatly reduced the internal friction between different Dao marks, giving hope to many killer moves in Fang Yuan's hands. Most importantly, the difficulty of deducing compound killer moves had fallen greatly for Fang Yuan. If they were ordinary goo immortals who primarily cultivated Wind Path and were to conceptualize a killer move like Firewind Wheel, they definitely would not foolishly choose to use Fire Path Immortal Goo as another core. At most, they would use some other path's low-rank Immortal Goo as supplementary, and the quantity would be few as well. The most common result would be to use countless Fire Path Mortal Goo to reduce the internal friction as much as possible. But with this, the killer move would include too many goo worms. The difficulty of its activation would soar, the concentration required would increase, and the overall value of the killer move would also fall. For a killer move to be practical, there could not be too many goo worms. The immortal essence burden could not be too heavy. The effect had to be good, and there could not be an obvious flaw. So, Creating a killer move was an extremely difficult project, but for Fang Yuan, he could conceptualize compound killer moves with not only dual cores, but 3 cores, 4 cores, and more. Wind path did not have burst potential, so he casually chose fire path. Single path killer moves had limited space for modification. Compound killer moves were even more so, because they had to consider internal friction, which caused the number of compound killer moves in history to be far fewer than single-path killer moves. Single-path killer moves had always been orthodox. They were the most mainstream. But Fang Yuan's current situation was completely different because of the great reduction in internal friction. He had much more room than ordinary Gua mortals when creating and modifying killer moves. In his situation, the more paths there were in this world, the lower the difficulty of conceptualizing killer moves. Because of this, Fang Yuan could rapidly create a large amount of compound killer moves in a short period of time. He had countless Gu recipes and killer moves, so even if his wind path and fire path attainment levels were not high, he could find references and easily conceive a killer move like Firewind Wheel. When he sparred with the Qi Si clone before, Fang Yuan used killer moves like Sword Feather Blade Wing, Heartache Crying Blood, Thunder Note Stream, and Refinement Butterfly. They were only a small portion of the outstanding ones in his collection. 3,000 Heaven Path down marks might be few, but they truly opened up a brand new world for Fang Yuan. Since ancient times, countless heroes and experts had only lightly dabbled in this new world. They could only explore a few steps before they were forced to halt helplessly. But with the help of Heaven Path down marks, Fang Yuan made over 10 steps, or even 100 steps, easily obtaining an unprecedented achievement. Heaven Path is all-encompassing and emphasizes balance of all beings. It is truly wondrous beyond words. Over the next few days, Fang Yuan secretly created and modified compound killer moves, while leading Qi Si Ancestor and Wu Shuai to clean up every grotto heaven. Most of the Qi harvest fruits of the variant Human Alliance members were devoured by Qi Si Ancestor, while some were left behind to grow in the grotto heavens. Fang Yuan annexed 3 rank 8 grotto heavens: Transformation Path Grand Swine Grotto Heaven, Time Path Time Difference Grotto Heaven, and Rule Path Novelty Grotto Heaven. The 3 grotto heavens were rich in resources and had deep foundations. They were located on the nodes of heaven veins and had been taken care of by Heaven's will for many years. Fang Yuan made ample arrangements. He split up these 3 grotto heavens and placed them all over the sovereign immortal aperture. For instance, Grand Swine Grotto Heaven's 2 super resource points were Rolling Fall Cliff and Pin Tree Snowfield. Rolling Fall Cliff was home to a large number of desolate beast jumping pigs. These desolate beasts did not know how to walk and could only jump. When they grew to a certain size and their bodies were fattened enough, they would move to the tallest cliff and jump down. A majestic waterfall flowed down the cliff. The water of the waterfall was boiling, containing endless fire path and water path down marks, creating hot steam all year round. When jumping pigs jump into the boiling waterfall, 10% of them would die from the corrosion of fire and water path down marks, while the remaining 90% would receive severe burns as well as bone fractures from the fall, barely surviving. But as long as these jumping pigs survive, they would break through to become deadly fat pigs. Deadly fat pigs were not desolate beasts. Their life essence had broken through to another level, becoming ancient desolate beasts. Rolling Fall Cliff had an impressive number of deadly fat pigs and jumping pigs. The scale of the deadly fat pigs produced every year was number 1 in 5 regions and 2 heavens, and Pin Tree Snowfield was home to Grand Swines. The Grand Swine was an immemorial black pig. Even its bones were black. Its body was as large as a mountain, and its movement was slow. Pin Tree Snowfield was extremely vast. Fang Yuan put it in mini northern plains, increasing the area of mini northern plains by 20%. There were over 500 Grand Swines of all sizes and ages. Fang Yuan had all of a sudden become the largest pig farm owner in the world. As for Time Difference Grotto Heaven and Novelty Grotto Heaven, they each had 1 super resource point. Fang Yuan's sovereign immortal aperture had suffered severe losses due to the myriad tribulation. But annexing these 3 grotto heavens immediately showed an improvement. The development of the grotto heaven even increasing to 25%. This development was slightly higher than before the myriad tribulation. Previously, the sovereign immortal aperture only had one super resource point. It was Dang Hun Mountain, which produced Guts Goo. Next was the Dragonfish resource point, which Fang Yuan had invested a lot into and grown to a giant resource point. On one hand, Fang Yuan's management of the sovereign immortal aperture involved seizing grotto heavens like Hei Fan Grotto Heaven and Qi Si Grotto Heaven. But how could these two grotto heavens have the security of the variant human alliance's grotto heavens? Heavensville was even taking care of the latter. On the other hand, Fang Yuan's management also included creating Eerie Fire Dragon Python, Sand Gull Soil, and Five Light Mountain. They were all at the initial phase, and the investment in them was also little. Their growth could not compare to the resources in the variant humans' grotto heavens. Finally, Fang Yuan also focused on raising humans and variant humans, but did not put his energy in investing resources on them. After annexing, the follow-up arrangements were extremely diverse and numerous. Fang Yuan handed these to the humans and variant humans in the immortal aperture to deal with. He started on refining the heaven path Dao marks contained in these grotto heavens. As for Qi Si Ancestor, he returned to Qi Si. Xia Clan's surviving Gu immortals were all in Qi Si and cried tears of joy when they saw Qi Si Ancestor. Qi Si Ancestor was still alive. This was the greatest news. Eastern Sea's large and super forces had sent representatives to station in Qi Si. The moment they received this news, they also let out sighs of relief. Without Qi Si Ancestor, they simply had no way to deal with Fang Yuan. This defeat is my fault. Qi Si Ancestor took the responsibility. Cough, cough, cough. Don't say that, Ancestor. It was my Xia clan who conceived the plan to attack the variant human alliance. Sigh. I am too ashamed to face those comrades who died in combat. Qi Si Ancestor looked up and sighed. His eyes were slightly red. Qi Si Ancestor, please heal your injuries for now. Tell us whatever resources you need. The whole of Eastern Sea will support you with all our strength. Eastern Sea's Shun Clan Gu Immortal spoke. Other super forces representatives also nodded with no objection. Under everyone's gaze, Qi Si Ancestor coughed a mouthful of blood and sighed. The important thing now is not my injury. Many of those in the two heavens who sided with me still have the Qi harvest fruit problem in their grotto heavens. I need to get rid of these Qi harvest fruits first. The immortals were immediately moved. The eyes of many Gu immortals of the two heavens turned wet with tears. Qi Si Ancestor, you are truly worthy of being the role model of Eastern Sea's righteous path. Lord Ancestor, we, the two heavens Gu immortals, will follow your lead without question. Chapter 2073, Enthusiastic Cultivation. 2073 Enthusiastic Cultivation, Sovereign Immortal Aperture, Mini Central Continent. A new time path Immortal Formations activation had reached a crucial point. Go. Fang Yuan willed. A large lump of cactus honey shot into the formation. This was a rank 8 time path Immortal material. The next moment, profound light erupted and turned into countless light specks, which then spread rapidly like silver-white fireworks. The light specks dissipated rapidly without any indication, as if the formation that Fang Yuan had constructed with great effort had completely failed. However, when Fang Yuan used his investigative killer move, he saw the phantom image of a pool in midair. This pool was similar to a year essence pool, but it was not big, only about 10% of the size of a year essence pool. Fang Yuan observed for a while before nodding in satisfaction. This formation arrangement was a success. With a thought, he opened the rank 8-year essence pool in the mini 9 heavens. A tributary of the river of time flowed down and gathered into the newly constructed subpool. When the water of the river of time in the subpool had accumulated to a certain level, it started to operate on its own. The river water passed through the bottom and poured onto the ground below. The bottom of the year essence subpool was an area of white fog. The fog covered a marsh which had a large number of desolate plants. Extreme marsh flowers. Some of these flowers were in the shape of an erect bud that was the size of a house. Some were blossomed and looked like a trumpet with their petals connected, and strands of white mist constantly spread towards the outside from the pistil of the flowers. This was the flower mist extreme marsh that Fang Yuan had constructed meticulously. Rank 8 Immortal Gu Regrets food was the fresh extreme marsh flower mist. under the irrigation of the tributary of the river of time. The whole flower mist extreme marshes time was sped up. The water of the river of time continued to spread over the surroundings, but walls of blue translucent light appeared around the flower mist extreme marsh. As such, the time acceleration was only limited to the range within the walls. Success. It can even be said to be perfect. Fang Yuan inspected several times and was greatly satisfied when he found no issues. Fang Yuan had obtained the method of the light blue translucent walls from Time Difference Grotto Heaven. Time Difference Grotto Heaven's large resource points were all like this, encapsulated by walls of light. The rate of time inside was many times faster than other areas. Thus, Time Difference Grotto Heaven had an outstanding production of time path resources. Fang Yuan added the year essence pool on top of the original foundation. Every subpool was in charge of regulating the time of a time path zone. The rank 8 year essence pool was the main dam, and these year essence subpools were secondary dams. The tributary of the river of time drawn from the river of time was first gathered into year essence pool, and its largest distributary was spread over the whole immortal aperture, while many subdistributaries gathered into secondary dams and sped up the production of the resources. Like this, Fang Yuan's resource production was accelerated by over 10 times. Naturally, this method was not just used to speed up the resource production, it could also be used on goo worms. When the goo worms were placed in a slowed time path zone, their food requirement would fall sharply. This method showed minimal effect in other goo immortals' hands. The reason was simple: Dao mark conflict. The time path zones were a time path method in essence. If they were used on goo worms of other paths, the higher their rank, the lower the effect they would have on them. Fang Yuan possessed heaven path Dao marks which could reduce internal friction. After he attempted this method, he found the effects were quite wonderful. On one hand, it could reduce the food requirement of the goo worms. On the other hand, it could increase resource production. The issue of food for goo worms was resolved before it even became a problem. Qi Si ancestor left, but Fang Yuan was not idle during these few days. The blessed lands left behind by the dead Eastern Sea Goo immortals were almost all annexed by him. And regarding the two heavens Grotto Heavens, Fang Yuan intended to leave them alone for the moment. First, the sovereign immortal aperture needed food and had to annex a Grotto Heaven once in a while. It could also reset the countdown of calamities and tribulations, which allowed Fang Yuan to make arrangements flexibly. Secondly, Grotto Heavens were like flower pots that were growing the Qi harvest fruits. Although there was not a big hope, if the Qi harvest fruits could continue to grow, it would not only be a suppression towards the variant human alliance members, it could also nourish the Qi Si clone. As for the 3 Grotto Heavens that Fang Yuan annexed before, they were necessary. Fang Yuan urgently needed to replenish his immortal essence. The efficiency of using immortal essence stones was too low in replenishing rank 8 immortal essence. The main source was self-production, but the immortal aperture's immortal essence production depended on the immortal aperture origin core. And whether the immortal aperture origin core was strengthened or not, it depended on the immortal aperture's development. To increase the development, Fang Yuan had to annex those 3 Grotto Heavens. The Fate War had consumed a large amount of Fang Yuan's immortal essence reserves. Afterwards, Fang Yuan did not have any time to rest. He ran around many places during the Qi tides, searching for a way to deal with Heaven Path Dao marks. After finding the method, Fang Yuan entered Heavenly Court, which immediately started the pursuit battle. Over this period of time, Fang Yuan had fought too many battles, and almost all the battles were against strong enemies who were at the peak of the Goo immortal world. By now, Fang Yuan's immortal essence reserves had already fallen below the warning line. He needed to rest and recuperate, and could not fight anymore within a short period of time. Fortunately, I seized the year essence pool and have plenty of time path methods that are able to speed up my immortal aperture's time flow to the limits. Otherwise, my immortal essence would have already been exhausted. Such a pity that I don't have rank 8 Heavenly Essence Treasure Imperial Lotus, otherwise I would not have to be worried about this. Heavenly Essence Treasure Imperial Lotus could produce rank 8 Immortal Essence. Its owner, Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable, had been the Venerable with the largest Immortal Essence reserves. Since Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable began his cultivation, He seemed to have never had to worry about primeval essence or immortal essence. On the contrary, his enemies would often fall into the awkward situation of using up all their primeval essence and immortal essence when fighting Genesis Lotus. Fang Yuan lacked immortal essence currently, and it was delaying his recovery.To explore dream realms. He needed immortal essence.To cultivate soul path. He needed immortal essence. He had lost many of his immortal goo, and they needed to be refined. He had many low-ranked immortal goo which needed to be upgraded. The injured immortal goo needed to be repaired using refinement path methods, which also required immortal essence. Because of the lacking immortal essence, he had to reserve the final bit of it for any unexpected situations. So Fang Yuan could only put these tasks aside for the moment. Only because the difficulty of creating compound killer moves was very small, he was able to barely manage it. Testing new killer moves no doubt required immortal essence, but it was within an acceptable range. Besides accumulating immortal essence and deducing compound killer moves, Fang Yuan was relocating resource points as well as sorting out the immortal materials. The resource points of the two heavens grotto heavens that could be moved were all relocated by Fang Yuan. After all, these grotto heavens were in the immemorial two heavens. They had to defend a vast area and would not be able to defend against enemy attacks in time. The countless immortal materials were sorted out and stored in several storages within the sovereign immortal aperture. Fang Yuan imitated Heavenly Court and constructed several large disclosed storages, as well as several highly valuable hidden storages. The variant human goo immortals enjoyed the favor of Heaven's will and were truly rich. Among the resources, wood path immortal materials were most abundant. Because Xiao He Jian and Green Forest Great Sage were many men. Besides them, there were also two wood path grotto heavens. There were naturally many immortal materials of other paths as well, but what gave Fang Yuan a pleasant surprise was he was able to get luck path immortal materials, and at an astonishing scale at that. For example, luck path ancient desolate beast rolling cat. After collecting all of them, Fang Yuan discovered he had gathered dozens. This small cat was extremely exquisite and could roll around on an adult's stretched palm. The rolling cat looked extremely endearing with its snow-white fur, tender claws, and large shiny black eyes. Its purring sound was also extremely delicate, meow meow meow. The listener's heart would go wild. There was also Lucky Jade. This was a rank 8 luck path immortal material. It let out dazzling light from time to time and contained a dense number of luck path Dao marks. Tooth Gap water was another luck path material. It looked no different from ordinary spring water, but if one drank it, it would get stuck in the gaps between teeth. It was not only extremely unpleasant, it even reduced the goo immortal's luck sharply. The variant human alliance does not have anyone cultivating luck path. But these people were able to develop a utopia away from the rule of humanity. They secluded themselves from the world and propagated. Their luck naturally would be high, let alone when they have the favor of Heaven's will. Fang Yuan carefully pondered. It made sense to gain these luck path immortal materials. These luck path immortal materials were highly valuable to Fang Yuan, and they came at the right time. Because he needed to advance many luck path immortal goo, but had only raised the rank of cooking luck pot. Cooking luck pot's rank was somewhat too low for the current Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan estimated he would earn a large amount of immortal materials and even immortal goo in the future, because those Eastern Sea goo immortal captives were still locked in the sovereign immortal aperture. Fang Yuan's extortion letters were already sent to every large force of Eastern Sea. After the heads of Eastern Sea's righteous path received the extortion letters, they sent them to Qi Si Ancestor, hoping to listen to his opinion and ask him to decide. Qi Si Ancestor had just finished running around all the two heavens grotto heavens that had allied with him and absorbed all of the Qi harvest fruits. Currently, his Qi path Dao marks had broken through 2 million. In less than half a month, the Qi Si clone's strength rose explosively at a shocking rate. The Qi Si clone did not publicize and hid it for the moment. He would hide it however long he could. If those remaining Qi harvest fruits could grow up again, it would be better. Qi Si Ancestor secretly hoped, but he knew there was not much chance of this happening. The Qi harvest fruits were produced because of Qi tides. Almost all the grotto heavens were sitting on heaven veins, so they had major issues with this in the pursuit battle against Fang Yuan. The 5 regions' chi tides showed no movements, which signified the merging of the 5 regions' chi was near completion. Chi-Si ancestor was also pondering about his own cultivation. He did not lack Tao marks nor immortal essence, but killer moves. Chi-Si ancestor only had few presentable killer moves. Although he obtained primordial origins true inheritance, Heavenly Court was too familiar with the killer moves in it, and they needed to be modified. Chi-Si ancestor's ambition naturally was not limited to just this. He wanted to create his own combat system. His killer moves alone could bully some rank 8 experts or the weaker pseudo-venerables. But when facing people like Spectral Soul and Duke Long, he needed an excellent combat system. The main factor that influenced the Gu Immortal's strength was cultivation level. But killer moves, immortal Gu, immortal essence, favorable conditions, and so on also were influencing factors. For instance, special killer moves like Reverse Flow Protection Seal could allow the Gu Immortal to bypass ranks in battle. A combat system was also one of the factors that to most Gu Immortals. A combat system was not necessary, because the mentioned factors were enough to create a difference in battle strength and decide victory or defeat. But to Fang Yuan and Chi-Si, a combat system was a must, because when cultivation level, killer moves, immortal Gu, and other common factors could not decide victory or defeat, it would depend on who had a mature and more outstanding combat system. Fang Yuan's extortion letters made a round before finally arriving at Chi-Si ancestor's desk. Chi-Si ancestor did not even take a glance at them, because he was aware of the content. My injuries are not light. I need to recuperate and close cultivation. Chi-Si ancestor's one sentence made Eastern Sea's righteous path lose the will to resist Fang Yuan. Even Chi-Si ancestor did not stand up. Who else could resist Fang Yuan? Pay the immortal materials obediently to get back their clan's Gu Immortals? Chi-Si ancestor spoke once again. I have already contacted Heavenly Court. Maybe they will send their troops to reinforce us. The Eastern Sea righteous path Gu Immortals felt complicated emotions and could not say anything. After all, Chi-Si ancestor was heavily injured, and he even contacted Heavenly Court for them. He did not act indifferent towards them as a lone cultivator who sided with the righteous path. Chi-Si ancestor had already done what he could. As for those Xia clan Gu Immortals, they rested and recuperated inside the Chi-Si formation. Their first supreme elder was already killed by Fang Yuan. The remaining few Gu Immortals became much more obedient. They had been anything but obedient before, especially when the variant human Gu Immortals escaped from Central Continent. These Xia clan Gu Immortals had been extremely happy and thought the chance to regain their home had come. The result was, the Chi-Si clone went along with and made use of their plan. Their last immortal Gu house was dismantled. Their first supreme elder was killed. Chapter 2074, Contribution Board. 2074 Contribution Board, Eastern Sea, Hot Springs, Blessed Land. Ever since Fang Yuan subdued the variant human alliance, he had been in closed cultivation within Xia clan's headquarters, and the Dragonman clone Wu Shuai was representing him in handling the alliance's daily affairs. I have taken note of your contributions. You may leave now. Wu Shuai's voice rang in the hall. This subordinate takes his leave. At the next moment, the palace door opened and 2 mini-man Gu Immortals flew out. They were Xiao Hejian and Green Forest Great Sage. After leaving the palace, the respectful expressions on their faces disappeared and were replaced by grief and helplessness. The reason the 2 immortals were summoned was because Fang Yuan had taken a fancy to their wood path immortal Gu. Under Wu Shuai's persuasion, the 2 immortals could only offer their wood path immortal Gu. Green Forest Great Sage transmitted, his voice that was filled with anger. Lord Xiao, what do we do now? My forest Gu is the core for many of my killer moves. I have lost almost all my battle strength without it. Xiao Hejian's expression was unsightly as well. Humph, you only lost rank 7 forest Gu. I had to offer rank 8 Gu myself. The 2 naturally were not willing to contribute, but the situation was beyond their control. What could they do about it? In fact, this situation had been happening often recently. Alliance members were all furious but did not dare to revolt. The list has been published. Suddenly, an excited voice reached the 2 mini-man Gu Immortals' ears. The 2 immortals changed direction and arrived in front of an information path mortal Gu house. There was a list pasted on this mortal Gu house. and there were two large words written at the top. Contribution board. Looking below that, Xiao Hejian was listed at the top, his contribution points as high as 4 digits. As for Green Forest Great Sage, although he was not among the top 3, he was top 10 as well. Green Forest Great Sage became slightly happier. Lord Xiao, look, you are in first place. Alliance leader did not deceive us. He really remembered our contribution to the alliance. He was depressed earlier, but now his mood had gotten much better. Xiao Hejin snorted while commenting in his head. This is just an exploitation method of the higher-ups. I did not expect this demon Fang Yuan to have such political skills as well. Sigh, I don't have such indomitable strength like his, and my headquarters still have the Qi harvest fruit. In the current situation, what else can I do other than follow Fang Yuan? Xiao Hejin had outstanding strength and was not any weaker than a heavenly court expert. Unfortunately, even with his strength, he could only lower his head in front of Fang Yuan that he was not willing to do so. But what could he do? Circumstances often gave people no choice. Contribution board. Soon, Ice Crystal, Immortal Monarch, and the rest also learned of this significant news. Over this period of time, Alliance members were frequently summoned and pressured to offer immortal goo. Even Xiao Hejin was not exempted. What should I do? Ice Crystal, Immortal Monarch, was worried. My name has not appeared on the contribution board. This is not a good thing as a Vice Alliance leader. Ice Crystal, Immortal Monarch, was feeling somewhat anxious, but he was reluctant to part with his ice and snow path immortal goo. If so, I need to gather a batch of immortal materials and offer them. I have to be among the top on the contribution board. Ice Crystal, Immortal Monarch soon made up his mind. Naturally, Fang Yuan could force all of his subordinates to hand over their immortal goo. But this action would be too unsightly. The tiny bit of unity gathered would dissipate. If this happened, Fang Yuan's previous efforts would have somewhat been in vain. Although Fang Yuan was a demonic overlord, he was also deeply aware of the righteous path's tricks. Putting up a contribution board could ease many conflicts and could also stimulate the enthusiasm of others. Naturally, it was still the same in essence. The strong were exploiting the weak. On the very day Fang Yuan put up the contribution board, a major event happened on Qi Si's end as well. The Gu Immortals of Eastern Si's righteous path had gathered in the hall and appointed Qi Si Ancestor as the alliance leader of Eastern Si's righteous Qi Alliance. Fang Yuan led the variant human alliance, which became a huge threat to Eastern Si's super forces. Especially the miserable defeat not long ago, it had increased the wariness and worry of Eastern Si's large forces regarding Fang Yuan's force. Facing the bullying of the strong, the weak naturally had to work together. Forced by Fang Yuan, every super force's intention to unite had never been so strong. As for the alliance leader's position, there was no space for competition. All the clans jointly appointed Qi Si Ancestor. Only Qi Si Ancestor, who had pseudo-venerable battle strength, could openly face Fang Yuan. The Qi Si clone did not pretend to be modest. This situation was within his expectations. Since I am the righteous Qi Alliance's alliance leader, I will give commands for the overall situation. I hope everyone will not merely pretend to obey the orders. Qi Si Ancestor said solemnly, "We don't dare to." Eastern Si's righteous path immortals responded. There are 3 major tasks presently. Qi Si Ancestor went into details. First is the creation of an alliance storage. Every clan has to offer a certain amount of resources, including not only immortal materials, but immortal goo recipes, immortal killer moves, and so on. The second task is to immediately create a contribution board and mission board. It will be fair and impartial. Anyone who contributes to the alliance from now on will have their merits known to everyone. The Righteous Qi Alliance's affairs should be handled by people who are qualified to take on the tasks. The third task is that alliance members should help and protect each other. If there is a traitor, other members must ally to get rid of the traitor. There must be no conniving. Reasonable, very reasonable. The immortals agreed. They all knew that they could only create the foundation of the alliance by doing this. Otherwise, the Righteous Qi Alliance would only exist in name and would be better off not established. Qi Si Ancestor held the first group discussion. The first topic was regarding the exchange of true inheritances and the communication of geniuses across various clans. Some clans had many refinement path Gu Immortals, while some were strong in wisdom path. Such collaboration could truly strengthen the whole Righteous Qi alliance's strength. The second topic was a discussion on how to negotiate with Fang Yuan and get back the captured Gu immortals. All the clans hoped Fang Yuan could return the intact Gu immortals with their immortal apertures. For this, they were willing to make a concession in terms of ransom. The third topic was to contact Heavenly Court openly with the Righteous Qi Alliance's name, hoping to ally with Heavenly Court and establish an even stronger alliance army to exterminate Fang Yuan and the Variant Human Alliance. After receiving this information, Wu Yong pondered quietly in the study room for an entire afternoon. Recently, Wu Yong got rid of the fierce Gorge 7 ghosts, increasing his reputation even more. However, soon afterwards, news of the fight between Fang Yuan and Qi Si as well as the defeat of Eastern Sea's Righteous Path was spread all over the world. The following developments made Wu Yong feel like they were too much to take in. Eastern Sea had split into two large alliances which entered the stage of confrontation. Lord Wu Bachong sought an audience. Looking at Wu Yong's solemn expression, Wu Bachong knew of the situation and his tone became much more gentle. The changes in Eastern Sea's situation were a heavy strike to Wu Yong's ambition that Wu Yong had intended to invade Eastern Sea after uniting southern border. But now, Eastern Sea underwent a complete change, let alone the matter of two large alliances. Fang Yuan was openly occupying an area of Eastern Sea. Wu Yong's great plan that was just about to start was showing signs of failure already. Lord, do we still attack Mushroom Man Paradise? Wu Bachong asked. Wu Yong's gaze flashed. He was too familiar with Wu Bachong and asked directly, "What happened this time?" Wu Bachong handed an information path Mortal Gu. Wu Yong received and browsed it. He crushed the information path Mortal Gu and slammed his fist on the desk. Bang! The brushes and papers were scattered everywhere. These cowards, scoundrels! Wu Yong clenched his teeth, his gaze carrying a trace of malevolent light. The information stated that a large number of southern border clans had secretly contacted Lu Weiyin. Their reason for doing this was clear. Fang Yuan displayed the might of the #1 demon in the world, which struck fear in these super forces. They might not want to be directly affiliated with Fang Yuan, but not long ago, Lu Weiyin had collaborated with Fang Yuan and ambushed Spectral Soul. So these super forces secretly contacted Lu Weiyin to ally with him. This was the way of survival for these super forces. On the surface, they could not tolerate the existence of demon Fang Yuan, but secretly, there was communication between them. In case something happens in the future, there would be a trace of friendship and an opportunity to survive. Lord, demonic forces are rampant currently. Since Lord has the great ambition of uniting the world, why not endure for some time and wait for a good opportunity? Wu Bachong persuaded. Wu Yong fell into silence. He was aware of his plan and knew its pros and cons very well. In the Gu world, strength ruled above all. In ancient times, primordial origin immortal venerable led humanity in overthrowing the rule of the variant humans. And at present, pseudo-venerables like Fang Yuan and Qi Si ancestor were leading the whole world. The result of their confrontation would influence the politics of all 5 regions, an alliance of weaklings to fight the strong. History proved that this would always end up badly. The conflict of Dao marks made numbers lose their advantage. Since ancient times, it was not that no predecessors thought of putting effort in this aspect. Ancient battle formations and immortal Gu houses emerged at opportune timings. But what of it? Look at the Fate War. The main characters were Duke Long, Fang Yuan, Feng Jiugu, and others. They were all Gu immortals. Even Demon Judgment Board, Dragon Palace, Dizong Sheng, and others only served as support. Naturally, Wu Yong's plan was not making an alliance of weaklings to fight the strong. That he wanted to plunder enough resources through the alliance to increase his cultivation and battle strength to pseudo-venerable and even venerable level. Developing a force was only a method to grow stronger. It could gather resources and pressure enemies. In the end, everything depended on oneself. Looking at the history of the 5 regions, super forces were no more than vassals of the strong. A super force's prosperity and decline was determined by the condition of their top experts. After a long while, Wu Yong broke the silence and spoke. Wu Bachong, your suggestion is reasonable. All right, we will put off the attack on Mushroom Man Paradise for the moment. We need to do several things now. Wu Yong said while tapping the desk with his finger. 1. Actively search and plunder all kinds of inheritances. Strive to find venerable methods so that we can openly resist existences like Fang Yuan. 2. Spread rumors boasting about Fang Yuan's strength. Emphasize on the conflict between Fang Yuan and Heavenly Court, and try to make them fight each other. 3. Secretly take part in internal affairs of other southern border clans. Assassination, instigation, temptation, no matter what methods are used. I want them to be more obedient. Chapter 2075, Venerable Revival. 2075, Venerable Revival, Central Continent. Flowing silver blessed land. Spare, please spare me. Retreat. She is demonic immortal Z-Wei. She is not someone we can fight. Such bad luck. We just invaded and demonic immortal Z-Wei arrives. The Central Continent Gu immortals sighed as they escaped everywhere in a hurry. Did I let you leave? Fairy Z-Wei sneered, purple radiance spreading from her whole body. The radiance shone upon half the sky. Most of the Central Continent Gu immortals died miserably, and only one escaped alive. Fairy Z-Wei was a rank 8 Gu immortal and a wisdom path grade expert. Against these rank 6 and rank 7 Gu immortals, she displayed absolutely despair-inducing battle strength. After easily killing the Gu immortals, Fairy Z-Wei waved her finger. The Gu immortals' souls were pulled to Ing Wuxia. Master Soul Foundation will greatly increase once again after devouring them. Fairy Z-Wei said with a smile. Ing Wuxia, however, did not feel joy and was low-spirited. Sigh. Even if my foundation is stronger, so what? The main body is dead. I am merely a lingering split soul that is barely living. Master, don't lose spirit. And Sun quickly persuaded. I have brought almost all the soul path resources of soul pacifying Grotto Heaven. They are food for your cultivation. During this period of time, and Sun had already joined with Fairy Z-Wei and Ing Wuxia. After urging Ing Wuxia, and Sun said to Fairy Z-Wei, Lady Z-Wei, did you intentionally let that transformation path Gu immortal leave? Why did you do that? Are you hoping for him to bring in even more Gu immortals? And Sun's soul was tampered by spectral soul and had extreme loyalty towards Ing Wuxia. He would object to anything that went against Ing Wuxia's benefits. Right now, he was staring fixedly at Fairy Z-Wei with a questioning look. Fairy Z-Wei sneered and did not respond. Ing Wuxia quickly lightened the mood. If I am not wrong, that transformation path Gu immortal should be Steel Rush Warrior. He is Fang Yuan's subordinate, a Gu immortal of Beast Calamity Grotto Heaven. After the Fate War, he has been drifting about in the outside world. And Sun frowned and felt indignant. It was Fang Yuan who killed our master's main body. He is our sworn enemy. There is even more reason not to let him leave. Ing Wuxia sighed. At present, Fang Yuan's demonic might is overwhelming. He has completely subdued the variant human alliance and is occupying a region of Eastern Sea. When he fought Eastern Sea's Righteous Path Alliance, he displayed pseudo-venerable battle strength and should have already broken free from the shackles of the Heaven Path Dao marks. He is now calling his subordinates to return. Do you think any superforce will dare to block them? Even Central Continent's 10 great ancient sects are turning a blind eye to it. Fairy Z-Wei added, Fang Yuan is crafty, despicable, sinister, and vicious. In his youth, he slaughtered his whole clan and relatives to increase his aptitude. He is cold and heartless. Be it the Fate War or the recent battle against Heavenly Court, he threw those subordinates away without any hesitation. Even if we killed this Steel Rush Warrior, can we inflict any loss to Fang Yuan? Damn it! And Sun clenched his fists as he realized. This demon's dominance has been established. We cannot destabilize him indeed. Not only this, even killing his subordinates poses a huge threat should Fang Yuan decide to investigate it. Since this demon has already recovered his battle strength, why has he not gone to fight Heavenly Court? Fairy Z-Wei analyzed while looting flowing silver blessed land. I have a suspicion that is Fang Yuan's immortal essence reserves. It is very likely he lacks immortal essence currently. He may only have been putting up a front when fighting Qi Si Ancestor. Currently, he should be completely focused on recuperating. Are you sure? And Sun's eyes shone. Maybe we can make use of this. Fairy Z-Wei fell into silence once again. Ing Wuxia gave a bitter smile. Do you know what our greatest gain in fighting with Fang Yuan is? What? It is that this person, Fang Yuan, can never be estimated with common sense. According to the previous battle's intensity and frequency, it is common sense for him to be lacking immortal essence now. But no one knows how many methods he has, how many venerables have provided resources for him, what miraculous methods he has brought back from his rebirth. Even my main body fell to his trap. It was not easy for us to escape. It is better if we don't try to provoke him. Ing Wuxia explained. Fairy Ziwei frowned. Ing Wuxia's words did not upset her. Instead, she felt somewhat worried about Ing Wuxia's morale. Fang Yuan showed astonishing performances so frequently that Ing Wuxia was now filled with fear. This was not the disposition of the grand spectral soul. Ing Wuxia was not just a split soul of spectral soul. He was the master whom Fairy Ziwei and Insun had devoted their loyalty to. They were looking forward to his rise to lift Ing Wuxia's spirit. Fairy Ziwei pondered for a while and said slowly, Fang Yuan is terrifying indeed. He has always been pressured by all forces, be it the forceful push by great venerables or the pursuit of heavenly court when I led it. He had to keep on wandering around from place to place for a long time in a precarious state. According to my guess, Fang Yuan was only a chess piece, and the moment he destroyed Fate Gu, the venerables who supported him abandoned him. Not only abandoned, they even want to get rid of him. Be it the shackles from Heaven Path Dao marks or Spectral Soul's pursuit, they are both evidence of this. But now, Fang Yuan has escaped the shackles and killed Spectral Soul. He is free from the Venerable's arrangements and obtained freedom. He never had the time to develop himself properly, but now he has. Currently, he is growing stronger with every moment of time at an unknowable speed. Even though I am a wisdom path great expert and have fought Fang Yuan many times, I am unable to estimate how strong he will be the next time he makes a move. But, no matter how strong he becomes, as long as he does not become venerable, he is not invincible. Fairy Ziwei changed the subject. Ing Wuxia gave a bitter smile. Who can say for sure? Fang Yuan might have already become a venerable the next time he makes a move. No, Fairy Ziwei smiled. The realm of venerable is not that easy to reach. Since ancient times, there have only been 10 of them. Venerable ascension holds an enormous secret. All the clues point out that the venerables who helped Fang Yuan will not inform him of this secret. So that's it. And Sun clapped and said excitedly, this is too good. As long as Fang Yuan does not become a venerable, he will only be a pseudo-venerable. No matter how strong he is, there will be limits. Be they Qi Si Ancestor or Divine Emperor City, they both can fight him. Ing Wuxia let out a breath of air. That means, as long as Fang Yuan does not become venerable, we still have hope. Fairy Ziwei nodded. Although Fang Yuan is strong, there are many restrictions on him. Fate Gu is destroyed. The order of the world has turned chaotic. Since demon immortal Qi Ju revived, could venerables not revive as well? That would not make sense. Demon immortal Qi Ju was only a pseudo-venerable. And Sun's heart shook. Lady Ziwei, you once led heavenly court. Can it be that you have some clues on venerable revival? Fairy Ziwei shook her head slightly. This is only my guess. I have no evidence. But one thing is obvious. The stronger the Gu immortal, the more difficult it is for them to revive. Demon immortal Qi Ju consumed a grotto heaven and also borrowed the help of the Qi harvest fruit. Even so, because of the severe interference during the revival process, demon immortal Qi Ju's strength was not consistent with heavenly court's records. It fell after the revival. A venerable's revival will be countless times more difficult than Qi Ju's. As she said this, Fairy Ziwei could not help but think of Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable. She already had many suspicions these last days. Although she and Ing Wuxia were pursued, Heavenly Court did not chase them intensely. After carefully thinking of it, although Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable's arrangements showed up during the Fate War, they clearly were not focused on guarding Heavenly Court. Under the control of Genesis Lotus Will, Divine Being Palace and Emperor City combined, forming Divine Emperor City. But during the Fate War, it only stayed in Central Continent and did not move. And the battle not long ago proved Divine Emperor City could move. And after the bamboo tree painting that Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable arranged at the topmost floor of Heaven Overseeing Tower absorbed many of Northern Plains' Gu Immortal experts, it flew out of Heavenly Court and left without a trace. Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable had left behind various methods, but Fairy Ziwei all along felt Genesis Lotus Immortal Venerable's focus was on other things, and not on defending Heavenly Court and protecting Fate Gu. Fang Yuan might have also sensed this, so he did not attack Divine Emperor City, I assume? Fairy Ziwei gazed towards Eastern It was unknown who released the rumor in Treasure Yellow Heaven. But rumors that were luring Fang Yuan and Heavenly Court into fighting were spreading wildly. There was only one discussion in the whole of the world of the 5 regions immortals. The fight between Fang Yuan and Heavenly Court's Divine Emperor City would decide who was the ruler of the world. Wu Yong only started it. Western Deserts Gu Immortals, Eastern Seas Gu Immortal World, Northern Plains Gu Immortal World, and even the 2 Heavens Gu Immortals had strong motives to secretly give momentum to this rumor. This plan is quite good, but what kind of person is Fang Yuan? Will he fall for it? Fairy Ziwei sneered. The world's game of chess that involved all living beings was decided by the fight between several people. Although Fairy Ziwei did not have the strength to participate, as a Wisdom Path Great Expert, she had the ability to observe this game. Flowing Silver Blessed Land was looted completely, and Fairy Ziwei successfully obtained the Flowing Silver Inheritance as well. This was a Metal Path inheritance created by Silver Horn, a rank 7 Gu Immortal of Central Continent, but it did not have much value to Fairy Ziwei. Ing Wuxie and In Sun also cultivated Soul Path, so the true inheritance's value was not big. The useful part of it were the immortal materials in the Blessed Land. After making sure they did not miss out on anything, Fairy Ziwei and the group immediately left this place. Immemorial Black Heaven. Under Bing Sichuan's lead, He Lulan arrived in front of Lux Suppression Heavenly Palace. Longevity Heaven actually hid such a trump card. He Lulan was inwardly shaken. The rank 8 Immortal Gu house in front of her was much larger than Calamity Luck Altar. Its grand dark golden body revealed signs of vicissitudes that spanned across countless years, but had a disposition of being firm and unshakable. I brought you here to seek an audience with a person. Bing Sichuan led He Lulan inside the depths of Lux Suppression Heavenly Palace. You are. He Lulan's eyes widened as she saw Immortal Zombie Giant Sun, who was sitting cross-legged on a cushion mat. The intense reaction from her bloodline and Immortal Zombie Giant Sun's appearance made He Lulan quickly confirm the identity of this person. She immediately knelt on the ground and bowed. This unfilial descendant greets Ancestor Giant Sun. Good child, get up. Immortal Zombie Giant Sun smiled kindly that a formless and gentle force lifted the agitated He Lulan. She had just stood up when she heard Immortal Zombie Giant Sun continue. You are my outstanding descendant. If we talk about who was unfilial, those Gu Immortals of He tribe were the unfilial ones. They are cowards who actually surrendered to an outsider. That Junior Baizu. Immortal Zombie Giant Sun paused before continuing. He Lulan, from today onwards, you will cultivate in Lux Suppression Heavenly Palace. In the future, you will go to Northern Plains and rebuild He tribe.